The Galactic Safety Board never expected their most referenced case study to begin with a coffee break, but in retrospect, that should have been their first clue about humans. The incident in question, now mandatory reading for all xenopsychologists, documents the unprecedented survival of human construction worker Dave Thompson, following what should have been a catastrophic structural failure of orbital construction. Platform Beta 17. Prior to this event, the Galactic Safety Board had classified humans as mostly harmless, occasionally helpful, and perpetually confusing. That classification would require significant revision after Dave Thompson survived 21 standard days in deep space, wearing only a standard-issue human construction environmental suit, which their engineers had rated for a maximum of 72 hours of life support. When asked how he managed this feat, Thompson replied, "Oh, the view was nice and I really needed a break from all the paperwork HFY kept sending me." This response, which initially caused 3 senior researchers to request stress leave, would prove entirely consistent with all subsequent interviews. The details of Thompson's survival have been compiled from suit recordings, emergency broadcast channels, and increasingly bewildered transmissions from various rescue authorities. Several expert committees are still debating whether to classify his survival as a miracle, a violation of several fundamental laws of physics, or simply, as one human reviewer suggested, peak Dave. Thompson's personnel file provides crucial context to the events that followed. It contains 47 safety violations, 12 commendations for creative problem-solving, and 1 note from his immediate supervisor, Foreman Rux, the rulebook Steelclaw, which simply reads, "I don't understand how he's still alive, but his productivity numbers are exceptional." The events detailed in this report began on what humans refer to as Tuesday, a designation that Thompson insisted on maintaining even while floating through space with no reference to any planetary rotation. When asked why he continued to refer to each day as Tuesday, Thompson explained, "Well, it started on a Tuesday, and honestly, changing my calendar app seemed like a lot of work." He made this statement while manually repairing a radiation leak in his suit, using what appeared to be construction foam and a coffee stirrer. The Galactic Council's designated human expert, Ambassador Sparkletoes, has admitted that after studying this case, they are no longer certain they understand anything about humans at all. The ambassador has since requested a sabbatical to reconsider everything they thought they knew about the universe. For the benefit of non-human readers, it should be clarified that Thompson's behavior is simultaneously entirely abnormal and completely typical for his species. This paradox has led to the addition of a mandatory stress relief period for all researchers studying human behavior in space construction environments. The following account has been preserved exactly as recorded, including Thompson's frequent requests for just 5 more minutes when rescue ships finally arrived. The Galactic Safety Board wishes to emphasize that this should not be considered a guide for survival procedures, though multiple humans have already attempted to recreate Thompson's space vacation house design. 3 separate investigation committees have yet to determine how Thompson managed to file his weekly timesheet throughout the entire incident, especially given that his communication system had been converted into what he termed a really decent entertainment center. The expense reports alone have caused the accounting department to implement mandatory meditation sessions. As the events unfolded, it became increasingly clear that the galaxy's understanding of human resilience, ingenuity, and their peculiar relationship with paperwork would never be the same. Perhaps most concerning was Thompson's ability to turn what should have been a terrifying survival situation into what he would later describe in his official report as a pretty decent staycation, all things considered. According to multiple witness statements, the day began like any other on Platform Beta 17, with Dave Thompson arriving exactly 3 minutes late to his shift, while carrying what he claimed was definitely not a modified coffee maker installed in his environmental suit. His supervisor, HFY, was already processing the paperwork for a safety violation when Thompson pointed out that technically The coffee maker improved suit efficiency by recycling excess heat from the heating coil to maintain optimal temperature regulation. HFY's subsequent request for stress leave was still being processed when the incident occurred. At precisely 7:47 Galactic Standard Time, Thompson began his assigned task of reinforcing the platform's quantum stabilization arrays. The job, according to safety protocols, required a minimum of 3 workers, 6 safety inspectors, and at least 2 quantum physicists on standby. Thompson was accompanied solely by Jerrybot Unit 7249, a maintenance robot who had recently developed what platform psychologists termed an concerning interest in human idioms. The conversation recorded moments before the initial explosion would later be used in multiple safety seminars as an example of something. The safety boards still weren't quite sure what. "Hey Jerry, hand me that quantum spanner, would you?" "Here you go, Dave, but I must point out that using a quantum spanner while hanging upside down violates approximately 47 safety regulations." "Yeah, but it's way faster this way, plus the blood rushing to my head helps me think better." "I do not believe that is how human physiology works, Dave. Although, as they say, when in Rome. Jerry, buddy, we really need to work on your idioms. That one doesn't even make sense here." "When life gives you lemons, Dave." It was at this precise moment that the platform's quantum stabilization array began exhibiting signs of critical failure, which 3 separate investigation committees have concluded was entirely unrelated to Thompson's unorthodox repair methods. The fact that his repairs were the only section of the platform to survive the subsequent explosion has been classified as inconvenient to our safety narrative by Senior Inspector HFY. The platform's emergency alert system activated at 800 hours, triggering the standard evacuation protocol. All personnel, except Thompson, proceeded to their designated escape pods. The emergency channel recorded what would become the first of many increasingly surreal conversations. "Thompson, get to your escape pod immediately." Foreman Rux's voice carried the particular strain of someone who had given this exact order many times before. "In a minute, boss. I just need to secure this last panel. The platform is literally breaking apart." "Yeah, but if I don't finish this, we'll have to redo all the paperwork. Besides, my coffee's not done brewing yet." "Dave," Jerrybot interjected, "my probability calculations suggest this is what humans call a really bad idea." "Your probability calculations also said I couldn't fit a mini-fridge in my suit's utility compartment, and look how wrong that was." At 8:15, the platform's structural integrity reached critical failure. The subsequent explosion scattered debris across a radius of approximately 300,000 kilometers. All personnel except Thompson had successfully evacuated. The last transmission received before communications temporarily failed would set the tone for the next 3 weeks. "Oh wow, you can really see everything from up here. Hey Jerry, want to stick around and watch the light show?" "Against my better judgment, when in Rome." What followed would challenge every known survival protocol in the Galactic Safety Board's extensive database. Thompson, using what he later described as just basic construction worker stuff, managed to convert his rapidly deteriorating position into what he would eventually call his space vacation home. The rescue response was immediately complicated by Thompson's first transmission to the emergency response fleet. "Hey guys, I appreciate the concern, but I actually just started my coffee break. Could you maybe circle back in about 15 minutes? Captain Plix Moonweaver's response of "he what" has since become standard training material for all emergency response personnel dealing with human construction workers. The initial emergency response to Dave Thompson's situation was hampered by what Captain Plix Moonweaver would later describe as an unprecedented level of non-emergency from the emergency victim. 6 hours after the platform explosion, the first rescue attempt established contact, leading to an exchange that would set the tone for the next 3 weeks. "Construction worker Thompson, please remain calm. We're approaching your position with emergency rescue protocols activated," Captain Moonweaver announced with professional urgency. Oh, hey there. Mind giving me like 20 more minutes? I'm in the middle of setting up my satellite dish. Your what? Yeah, found it floating nearby. Still gets all the good channels too. You guys ever watch human soap operas? Days of Our Lives is about to start. Dr. Nix Brightscale, the xenoanthropologist assigned to the rescue operation, would later note that this was the first documented instance of a human attempting to establish comfortable viewing arrangements while drifting through space in a rapidly depleting environmental suit. This would not be the last surprising use of salvaged equipment. By the end of the first day, Thompson had collected enough debris to construct what he termed his starter apartment. The rescue team's attempts to understand his priorities led to increasingly bizarre conversations. Mr. Thompson, your oxygen supplies are at 63% and declining. What are your immediate survival needs? Dr. Brightscale inquired, trying to maintain professional composure. Well, I could use a better throw pillow. All I've got is this chunk of quantum foam padding, and it's not really bringing the room together, you know. Dave has also instructed me to maintain a proper feng shui alignment with the nearby asteroid field. Jerrybot chimed in helpfully. Does anyone here understand what's happening? Dr. Brightscale could be heard shuffling papers in bewilderment. Thompson's innovative use of his construction suit systems became apparent during the second day when rescue teams detected unexpected power readings from his location. Investigation revealed that Thompson had modified his suit's waste reclamation system to, in his words, make a pretty decent cup of coffee, all things considered. The Cusick brothers, leading quantum mechanics in the sector, attempted an emergency teleportation rescue on day 3, which failed due to what they described as subject's refusal to maintain a consistent quantum state. Look, I appreciate the thought, Thompson had responded, but I just got my space hammock set up perfectly. Besides, your quantum field was totally clashing with my mood lighting. By day 4, Thompson's situation had attracted significant media attention. Reporter Zeta Star Whisper's first live interview became an immediate galactic sensation, though perhaps not for the intended reasons. Mr. Thompson, how are you managing to survive in such extreme conditions? Oh, it's not so bad. Jerry and I figured out how to rig up a mini garden using some hydroponics equipment that floated by. Want some space lettuce? I've calculated that our little garden technically violates 13 different space farming regulations, Jerry Bott announced proudly. When life gives you lemons, grow unauthorized vegetables. The interview was temporarily interrupted when Thompson excused himself to adjust the thermostat, a process that involved rewriting his suit's core programming with what appeared to be a plastic spork and half of a maintenance manual. Days 5 through 7 saw a steady stream of increasingly bewildered expert consultants attempting to understand how Thompson was defying multiple laws of physics and survival probability. The highlight of these consultations came when Thompson offered to help debug one rescue ship's navigation system because it was making a funny noise he didn't like. Ambassador Sparkletoe's official report from this period contained only one line. I believe we may have fundamentally misunderstood everything about human construction workers. The week concluded with Thompson submitting his regular timesheet to Foreman Rux, categorizing his activities as routine maintenance and light gardening. The attached expense report for essential survival supplies left the accounting department in therapy for a week, particularly the line items for improvised space hammock and slightly illegal garden supplies. Foreman Rux's only response was to forward the paperwork to accounting with a note reading, "I don't even know anymore." The accounting department's subsequent request for hazard pay was approved without question. By the beginning of week 2, it became apparent that Dave Thompson was not merely surviving in space, but had begun what he called his extreme home makeover, Void Edition. Dr. Nix Brightscale's field notes from this period conveyed growing professional bewilderment. Subject continues to treat potential death in space as though it were an extended home renovation project, has somehow managed to create what he calls a space patio using debris held together by construction foam and, apparently, optimism. The rescue authorities' confusion deepened as Thompson established a daily routine that seemed better suited to a suburban home than a survival situation. Each morning at 700 hours, he would begin with coffee and what he called his perimeter check, explaining to bewildered observers that he had to make sure the neighbors aren't getting too close, referring to nearby asteroids that he'd named Fred and Susan. Jerry Bott had taken to announcing the start of each day with increasingly questionable human idioms. "Rise and shine, Dave. The early human catches the space debris," became a regular morning greeting, followed by Thompson's patient attempts to explain why that wasn't quite right. Equipment maintenance and home improvements occupied most mornings, with Thompson treating lethal space debris as though it was spare parts from a hardware store. "Hey, Jerry, hand me that plasma torch. I think we can turn this piece of hull plating into a pretty sweet coffee table," he'd say, while Jerry Bott dutifully reminded him about safety regulations. "Dave, I feel compelled to inform you that repurposing safety-rated hull plating as furniture violates at least 27 regulations. Also, that's what she said." The Bott's corrupted idiom database had begun mixing metaphors in increasingly creative ways. Captain Moonweaver's rescue attempts became impromptu engineering consultations, much to the captain's growing frustration. "Thompson, we've developed a new rescue protocol that... Yeah, I can see your port thrusters misaligned from here. Might want to get that checked out before it goes quantum critical." "That's not... Wait, how can you even see that from there?" "Construction worker, remember? Also, your paint job's a little uneven on the stern." Reporter Zeta Star Whisper's Lunch in Space segment became the most watched broadcast in galactic history, particularly when Thompson demonstrated his gravity-optional sandwich assembly technique. The sight of him cheerfully pursuing floating sandwich ingredients while explaining proper condiment distribution in zero gravity left viewers both fascinated and deeply confused. "The trick is to chase down the floating ingredients in the right order," he explained, snatching a piece of lettuce from the void. "Makes eating way more fun." "I believe this is what humans call playing with your food," Jerry Bott observed, "although my database suggests this phrase typically applies to younger humans." "Jerry, when in space, make space aid." "I'm 37% certain that is not the correct idiom, Dave." The afternoon periods were typically devoted to what Thompson described as home improvement projects, each more alarming to safety experts than the last. His decision to install a window particularly troubled Dr. Brightscale. "Mr. Thompson, you're in space. Everything around you is already a window." "Yeah, but this one has curtains." By day 12, Thompson had accumulated enough salvaged materials to create what he termed his deluxe space suite. The Cusick's brothers' second rescue attempt failed when they couldn't determine which collection of debris was Thompson's actual living space and which was his outdoor storage. Ambassador Sparkletoes attempted to submit a revised human behavior analysis to the Galactic Council, but was found in their office surrounded by crumpled reports, muttering, "But why does he need a welcome mat? Who is he welcoming? It's space." The week's most notable development was Thompson's successful establishment of his entertainment center, cobbled together from various communication equipment and powered by what he described as some spare batteries I had lying around. When informed that he had actually managed to create a microfusion reactor using construction equipment, Thompson merely shrugged. "Yeah, that makes sense. Was wondering why my coffee maker was running a bit hot." Foreman Rux's only comment on the situation was a brief memo. "Please note that unauthorized fusion reactor construction should be reported on Form X27B/6. And no, I don't care any more that he's in space." By the beginning of Week 3, the rescue operation had evolved into what Captain Plix Moonweaver described as a galaxy-wide exercise in futility. The situation was further complicated by the arrival of multiple species rescue delegations, each insisting their method was the only correct approach to saving a human who appeared to need no saving. The first multi-species rescue coalition emergency meeting quickly devolved into chaos, beginning with the Voltraxian delegates' insistence that their tractor beam technology was superior to all others. This claim was interrupted by Thompson's casual voice over the comm link. Hey, quick question. Is that the same tractor beam design that uses a quantum flux capacitor? Yes, it's our most advanced. Yeah, might want to hold off. I can see your power coupling's got a hairline fracture. About 3 minutes from catastrophic failure. A distant explosion punctuated his warning. Make that 2 minutes. Sorry about your ship. The Cusick's brothers made their third rescue attempt with what they termed absolutely guaranteed quantum tunneling technology. Their confidence lasted approximately 30 seconds. The calculations are perfect. There's no way he can... Cusick's prime began. Oh, hey, I just moved my couch. You might need to recalculate for the new mass distribution. Thompson interrupted cheerfully. But how did you... Also, your quantum field is clashing with my new wind chimes. Wind chimes in space? Really ties the void together, don't you think? Dr. Nick's Brightscale's observation log from this period read like a cry for help. Subject continues to treat rescue attempts as unwanted interruptions to his space vacation. Has now started offering engineering consultations to his would-be rescuers. Most disturbingly, his advice has been consistently correct. The situation reached new heights of absurdity when Thompson began hosting what he called Open House Tuesdays. Reporter Zeta Star Whisper, covering the event, couldn't quite keep the bewilderment from her voice. Mr. Thompson, why are you hosting social events in a survival situation? Well, all these rescue ships keep showing up anyway. Might as well make it official. Plus, Jerry makes great hors d'oeuvres. I have mastered the art of zero-gravity cheese cubes, Jerry Bott announced proudly. When life gives you cheese, make it float. The Galactic Safety Board's attempts to classify Thompson's expanding space residence were continuously thwarted by his ongoing improvements. One particularly exasperated inspector found himself in an impossible conversation. Sir, we need to catalogue your survival shelter for regulatory purposes. Sure, but you might want to wait until after I finish the sunroom. The what? Well, technically everything's a sunroom out here, but this one's got better lighting. Captain Moonweaver's increasingly desperate rescue proposals were met with a series of polite but firm deferrals. The captain's professional demeanour had begun showing distinct cracks. Look, I appreciate the effort, but I just started a DIY project. It's been 3 weeks. Rome wasn't built in a day, Captain, right, Jerry? When in Rome, build unauthorized space extensions. The week culminated in what became known as the Great Rescue Fleet Traffic Jam, as 17 different species rescue ships attempted to approach Thompson's position simultaneously. The resulting chaos was only amplified by Thompson's impromptu technical inspection of their vessels. Okay, you're going to want to fix that shield harmonics issue before you get any closer. And you, with the blue ship, your port stabilizer's making a weird noise. And is anyone else smelling burnt toast? Might want to check your antimatter containment. The resulting repairs actually took longer than the original rescue mission was supposed to last, leading one rescue coordinator to simply log Day 147 of trying to save someone who keeps saving us instead. The situation came to its unexpected conclusion on what Dave Thompson insisted was still definitely Tuesday. After 3 weeks of failed rescue attempts, mounting bureaucratic confusion, and increasingly elaborate home improvements, Thompson apparently decided that his break had lasted long enough. Hey, Captain Moonweaver! His casual voice crackled over the emergency channel. Could you move your rescue fleet about 3 kilometers to the left? I'm thinking about heading back to work. After 3 weeks now you want to be rescued? Oh, I don't need rescuing, just making sure you're all at a safe distance. What followed has been described by witnesses as horrifyingly elegant, physically improbable, and the most human solution possible. Thompson had, over the course of his vacation, secretly constructed what he termed a perfectly reasonable backup plan, using salvaged debris, construction equipment, and what appeared to be parts from 7 different coffee makers. Dr. Nick's Brightscale's final field report attempted to describe the scene with professional detachment, but the increasing number of question marks betrayed their confusion. Subject Thompson, apparently tired of the view, proceeded to convert his makeshift space residence into what can only be described as a jury-rigged propulsion system. The process involved 3 unauthorized fusion reactions, a repurposed quantum stabilizer, and what he claims was just basic construction math. The resulting vehicle violated 17 different laws of physics, but somehow worked anyway. The rescue fleet's collective sensor logs recorded Thompson's final conversation with his robotic companion before their departure. "Hey Jerry, want to test out our ride? Dave, I calculate a 12.3% survival probability for this plan. Pretty good odds, better than that time with the quantum jackhammer. When in Rome, violate the laws of physics." The improvised vehicle, which Thompson had named Tuesday's return policy, successfully transported him and Jerry back to the nearest space station, powered by what engineering experts would later determine to be construction equipment, spite, and coffee. Upon arrival, Thompson's first action was to file his completed timesheet with Foreman Rux, categorizing the entire 3-week period as extended equipment maintenance and field testing. His expense report included entries for 7 emergency coffee makers, modified beyond recognition, 1 temporary space house, 1 improvised fusion reactor, 1 physics-defying return vehicle, and various home decor items, which he insisted were necessary for morale. The Galactic Safety Board's final conclusions proved somewhat less than conclusive. They determined that human construction workers should be considered a force of nature rather than standard employees, that all safety regulations regarding humans needed extensive revision, that coffee makers should potentially be classified as restricted technology, and that the definition of impossible may need updating. Most importantly, they classified Tuesdays as a potentially hazardous concept. Thompson's only comment on the entire incident, recorded during his mandatory psychiatric evaluation, was, "You know, it was nice to finally get some quiet time to catch up on my shows. But next time I think I'll just take a regular vacation. The paperwork for this one is going to be a nightmare." Jerrybot Unit 7249's final log entry simply read, "When life gives you a space explosion, make a space home. I believe I am finally understanding human idioms." Since then, Thompson has been hired as a consultant by 16 different species space rescue organizations, though he insists on reviewing all their paperwork first, just to make sure it's not too boring. The Galactic Council is still processing his request to have his space residence officially zoned as a historic landmark. The various attempts to explain and classify Thompson's achievement have largely been abandoned. As one anonymous Galactic Safety Board member noted in their resignation letter, "Some things simply defy explanation. Humans defy everything else. The only point everyone agrees on is that somehow it is still Tuesday." As for Thompson, he returned to work the next day exactly 3 minutes late, carrying a slightly modified coffee maker, while Foreman Rux pretended very hard not to notice that it was glowing slightly and humming what sounded suspiciously like "Don't Stop Believin'" in perfect pitch. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a collection of wind chimes still tinkles softly among the stars, marking the spot where a human once decided to turn certain death into an impromptu vacation, because the paperwork for dying was probably too complicated anyway.